Hello everyone, this is chapter 15 part 1 Monopoly. Now we are looking at the other extreme of perfect competition. Before we get started, I would like you to take a look at this little picture I put here. This is the cover of the famous board game Monopoly. Here's a monopolist supposedly running with a bag of money. Okay, so I want you to think about this cover and imagine positive economic profits. What's going to happen for a monopolist, because it's the only producer in the market? If it has positive economic profits in the short run, it gets to keep those positive economic profits in the long run, unlike perfect competition where in the long run economic profits are zero. So in this part we will first define monopolies, then we will learn about the reasons why we would have monopolies, or the reasons behind monopoly formation. Let's get started. Monopolies are characterized by one company, one firm in the entire industry producing an output or a product that does not have close substitutes. And in addition to these, you should have significant barriers to entry. Actually, there's no entry, or entry is blocked. Okay, so that's what makes you a monopolist. Examples would be De Beers as a diamond company. At the beginning of 1900s, De Beers held majority of the De Beers owned majority of the diamond mines. Another example is the zipper company, YKK. So if you go ahead and check your zippers on your jeans or your jackets, it's more than likely you're going to find YKK zippers still. They used to be monopoly. And in your city, so imagine looking at city of Corpus Christi, for instance, or in Corpus Christi, trash collection is a monopoly by city government. Why? Because efficiency, the reasons are efficiency, fairness, and you want to make sure that everybody gets the service. Or in Austin, for instance, electricity services given by the city. It has monopoly over that. Corpus Christi water, again, city has monopoly over it. So I want you to understand that most firms operate in markets that fall somewhere between monopoly and perfect competition. However, we are learning both of these extreme cases to understand these, intermediate cases, which are called monopolistic competition and oligopolies. Okay, how do monopolies form? Reason number 1, government could be blocking entry. The ways government could be blocking entry are actually several ways. So how does government block entry? Basically, this monopoly is formed by the virtue of government franchise. So because government says so. Number 1 is granting patents and copyrights. What are patents? Patents are exclusive right to a product for 20 years from date of invention. So let's say you come up with a new way of treating water that water comes out of residential and commercial use. So you found a very good way of treating wastewater. Okay, once you come up with this invention, you can actually get the patent to this invention, and you can actually you can be the monopolist for 20 years, but after 20 years it's gone. So pharmaceutical industry actually benefits a lot from this. For instance, Prozac sales went down by 80% once the generics kicked in. So 20 years after the initial invention, okay, generics kicked in. Prozac is a medication that is used in the treatment of various cases of depression. And what happens in the pharmaceutical industry is that, let's say they invented something, okay? They invented something, and it takes them at least 5 to 10 years to actually complete all the trials to make sure that it's not dangerous to people. And it takes 5 to 10 years to start selling it. And it costs them millions of dollars to actually do this. Therefore, after first 5 to 10 years you're in the market, you have let's say 15 to 10 years left in your patent period to actually become profitable. That's why the prices of brand name medications are more expensive and generics kicks in, then your sales are going to go down. Copyrights are other ways of government blocking entry. Copyrights are government granted exclusive right to production or sale of a creation, which is like a piece of music or a movie. Without patents and copyrights, there's actually no or little incentive for research and development and artistic creation. Because if I'm not going to be able to recuperate the cost of my invention of a new medication, why should I actually put time and money in this? Or I'm an artist, okay? If I'm not going to be able to retain the rights of my creation, a piece of music or a book, then what's the point of getting involved with those activities? Okay, another way of government blocking entry is granting a firm a public franchise. Public franchises are defined as exclusive legal provider of a service. To make some company to become a exclusive legal provider of a service. Why would government actually grant a firm a public franchise? The reasons cited are efficiency, fairness, economies of scale, and control. Okay, examples: USPS, United States Postal Services, is a government company. Typically, utilities, electricity, water, trash, waste collection. Gambling and lottery also is controlled by state governments. For instance, in Texas, we have various lotteries. Okay, they are all controlled by the state. USPS, government. Typical utilities, usually city. Gambling lottery is controlled by state and at some point federal governments as well. So typical utilities are usually controlled by city governments because you want to be efficient and fair. You want to control those services. Why? You want to make sure your trash is being picked up. You want to make sure the water that comes out of faucet is actually not contaminated. Also, there's large economies of scale involved with these utilities provision. What does that mean? That means that the bigger the company is, the cheaper the service. USPS, several reasons. Gambling, lottery, I would cite control reason. It's a huge revenue source. You want to be able to control it. Okay, another reason why monopolies would form is control of a key resource. Actually, if you control of a key resource, you may become a monopoly. Examples: De Beers. As I said, they own majority of the diamond mines. That gives them a high chance to become monopolists. Alcoa is actually a publicly traded company. If you go look at New York Stock Exchange, you'll see this company. Alcoa, they produce aluminum, and the full name is Aluminum Corporation of America. They actually own the bauxite mines. Okay, so bauxite is an important input in producing aluminum. If you want to produce aluminum without using bauxite, you really need to use scrap aluminum, recycle it, grab the bauxite and then produce it. So that, because Alcoa owns bauxite mines, it doesn't have to do all those things. Therefore, you become a monopolist. The third reason why we would have monopolies is network externalities. What does that mean? So the idea here is this: usefulness of a product increases as more people use it. So imagine all those products, all those services you use, and imagine that the ones that use wouldn't be useful if nobody else used it or not many people used it. Examples: Facebook. If nobody was on Facebook, it wouldn't be useful at all. That's why Google Plus never picked up. Google Plus was an amazing product, however, nobody got on it. It never picked up. So, look, you don't have monopoly. Facebook has monopoly, I'm gonna say, in social media. Microsoft Office. I'm talking about Word, Excel. What if you were the only one who had Microsoft Word program? You're typing your economics paper project, sending to your professor. Your professor is like, I can't open it, right? So that would be useless. PDF, Adobe PDF, or eBay auctions. Nobody's in the auction. It's useless. Okay. Natural monopolies. Natural monopolies, a way that we get monopolies is these natural monopolies develop naturally, automatically, because there's large economies of scale associated with it. Okay, there's only room for one company in the entire market. So all these four allow firms to have some control over their price. So you can actually sell less and charge more. That is called market power. Okay, a monopolist is something what we call is a price maker, not a price taker. A monopolist can determine its price. How much to charge is going to be the new question. If you remember a perfectly competitive firm, it was a price taker, perfectly competitive firm. It would only determine optimal level of output. However, here you're going to determine not only level of output, I'm going to put M for monopolist, but also the price level. Okay, so how do we do this? You have to look at the demand side to determine price. That's going to be next parts. But the supply and the cost side is going to be exactly the same as perfect competition. So that's great. That means we're going back to family of cost curves. Family of cost curves, identical, no change. Demand side is a bit different. Okay, revenue side is going to change, but it's not too bad. So let's continue with that in the next part.